Hello everyone. Uh, Happy Bank Holiday Monday. Hope everyone's alright. I'm gonna have a nosy through another book today. It's called The Alien World. It's what I used to get. I used to get it free through the post years ago. 45 years ago. Between 45 and 50 years ago. So I'll read a couple of stories from this and I'll use this for a week or so until I've finished it. So this story's called Agents of the Dark. Yeah, I don't usually do aliens. I do and I don't, but I'll read this one. Please subscribe to my channel if you like it. And like as well also, please. So this one's called Agents of the Dark. Rarely, if ever, do the threats come of the mysterious men in black come to anything. So what is the purpose behind their visits? In September 1976, Dr. Herbert Hopkins, a 58-year-old doctor and hypnotist, was acting as consultant on an alleged UFO teleportation case in Maine, USA. One evening, when his wife and children had gone out leaving him alone, the telephone rang and a man identifying himself as vice president of the New Jersey UFO Research Organization asked if he might visit Dr. Hopkins to discuss the case. Dr. Hopkins agreed. At the time, it seemed a natural thing to do. He went to the back door to switch on the light so that his visitor could find his way from the parking lot and saw the man already climbing the porch steps. I saw no car, and even if he did have a car, he could not have possibly gotten to my house that quickly from any phone. He later commented in astonishment. I'm smiling because I've read some of these before and they're really interesting. But at the time, Dr. Hopkins felt no particular surprise as he admitted his visitor. The man was dressed in a black suit with black hat, tie and shoes and a white shirt. I thought he looked like an undertaker. His clothes were immaculate, suit unwrinkled, trousers sharply creased. When he took off his hat, he revealed himself as completely hairless, not only bald, but without eyebrows or eyelashes. His skin was dead white, his lips bright red. In the course of their conversation, he brushed his lips with his grey suede gloves, and the doctor was astonished to see that his lips were smeared and the gloves stained with lipstick. It was only afterwards, however, that Dr. Hopkins reflected on the strangeness of his visitor's appearance and behaviour. At the time, he sat discussing the case in a normal manner. When he had given his account, his visitor stated that his host had 2 coins in his pocket, which was indeed the case. He asked the doctor to put one of the coins in his hand. He did so. The stranger asked Dr. Hopkins to watch the coin, not himself. As he watched the coin, seemed to go out of focus and then gradually vanished. Now, do you know anyone else on this plane will ever see that coin again? The visitor told him. After talking a little while longer on UFO topics, Dr. Hopkins noticed that the visitor's speech was slowing down. The man rose steadily to his feet and said very slowly, "My energy is running low. Must go now. Goodbye." He walked falteringly to the door and descended the outside steps uncertainly, one at a time. Dr. Hopkins saw a bright light shining in the driveway, bluish white and distinctly brighter than a normal car lamp. At the time, however, he assumed it must be the stranger's car, though he neither saw nor heard it. Later, when Dr. Hopkins' family had returned, they examined the driveway and found marks that could not have been made by a car because they were in the centre of the driveway. Where the wheels could not have been. By next day, although the driveway had not been used in the meantime, the marks had vanished. Dr. Hopkins, very much shaken by his visit, particularly when he reflected on the extraordinary character of the stranger's conduct, not surprisingly, he was so scared that he willingly complied with his visitor's instruction to erase the tapes of the hypnotic sessions he was conducting with regard to his current case, and to have nothing further to do with the case. Curious incidents continued to occur both in Dr. Hopkins' household and in that of his eldest son. He presumed that there was some link with the extraordinary visit, but he never heard from his visitor again. As for the New Jersey UFO Research Organization, no such institution exists. Dr. Hopkins' account is probably the most detailed we have of an MIB, of a Men in Black visit, and confronts us with the problem at its most bizarre. First, we must ask ourselves if a trained and respected doctor would invent such strange a tale, and if so, what conceivable motive? Alternatively, could the entire episode have been a delusion, despite the tracks seen by other members of his family? Could the truth lie somewhere between reality and imagination? That is to say, could there have been a real visitor, albeit an impostor making a false identity claim, visiting the doctor for some unknown reason of his own, and somehow acting as a trigger for the doctor to invent a whole set of weird features that, to a third party, might have had some quite natural explanation? What seems the least likely explanation is that the whole incident took place in the doctor's imagination. When his wife and children came home, they found him severely shaken, with the house lights blazing, seated at a table on which lay a gun. They confirmed the marks on the driveway and a series of disturbances on the telephone that seemed to commence immediately after the visit. So it would seem that some real event occurred, although its nature remains mystifyingly uncertain. The concrete nature of the phenomenon was accepted by the United States Air Force, who were concerned that persons passing themselves off as USAF personnel should be visiting UFO witnesses. In February 1967, Colonel George P. Freeman, Pentagon spokesman for the USAF Project Blue Book, told UFO investigator John Keel in the course of an interview, mysterious men dressed in Air Force uniforms or bearing impressive credentials from government agencies have been silencing UFO witnesses. We have checked a number of these cases, and these men are not connected with the Air Force in any way. We haven't been able to find out anything about these men. By posing as Air Force officers and government agents, they are committing a federal offence. Yeah, they could be committing a federal offence, but what if they are under some other law? That I'm saying that what if they are covered by some other law? I mean, yeah, I could say that word, but I'm not going to. They could be covered by some other law. For all we know, they could be using space, the law of outer space, whereas here we have to utilise the law of the police because we're on the ground. So they could be using airspace law. Who knows? I don't know. I'm just saying. So they are committing a federal offence. We would sure like to catch one. Unfortunately, the trail is always too cold by the time we hear about these cases, but we're still trying. A question remains. Were the imposters referred to by Colonel Freeman and Dr. Hopkins strange visitor similar in kind? UFO sightings, like sensational crimes, attract a number of mentally unstable persons who are quite capable of posing as authorised officials in order to gain access to the witnesses. It is likely that some supposed MIBs are simply pseudo-investigators of this sort. Now, I don't quite believe that. One curious recurrent feature of MIB reports is that the ineptitude of the visitors time and again. They are described as incompetent. If they are impersonating human beings, they don't do it very well. They arouse their victims' suspicions by improbable behaviour, by the way they look or talk, by their ignorance as much as by their knowledge. Of course, it could be that the only ones who are not spotted as impostors are those who are not good at their job. And so there may be many known more MIB cases that we never learn about simply because the visitors successfully convinced their victims that there is nothing suspicious about the visit, or that they will do the best to keep quiet about it. A feature of a great many MIB visits in the instruction to the witness not to say anything about the visit and to cease all activity concerning the case. Clearly we know of these cases only because such instructions here have been disobeyed. Curiously, however, no terrible retribution follows, although violence is frequently threatened if the witness does not comply with instructions. Canadian UFO witnesses Carmen Cuneo in 1976 was told by a mysterious visitor to stop repeating his story and going further into his case, or he could be or he could be visited by 3 men in black. Excuse me. He said. He said. I said. What's that supposed to mean? Well, he said, I could make it hot for you. It might cost you certain injury. A year earlier, Mexican witness Carlos de los Santos was stopped on his way to a television interview by not one, but 2 large black limousines, and one of the occupants, dressed in a black suit and Scandinavian in appearance, told him, "Luke boy, if you value your life and your family's too, don't talk any more about this sighting of yours." However, there is no reliable instance of such threats ever being carried out, though a good many witnesses have defied their warnings. Indeed, sinister though the MIBs may be, they are notable for the lack of violence associated with them. The worst that can be said of them is that they harass the witness with their untimely visits and telephone calls, or simply disturb them with their very presence. Well, for the victim, it is just well that the threats of violence are not followed through. This is for the investigator one more disconcerting aspect of the phenomenon. For violence, if it resulted in physical action, would at least help to establish the reality of the phenomenon. It would, wouldn't it? But if they from somewhere else, or even from here, who knows where they live or originate from, then if they dictate violence, then that means that they are liable to, at one point in time, conduct the use of violence, whether they like it or not, because they dictated violence, you see. So anyway, will at least help to establish the reality of the phenomenon, for it remains a fact that most of the evidence is purely hearsay in character, and not often the highest quality. Cases, as well attested as those of Mr. Richardson and Dr. Hopkins, are unfortunately in the minority. There is a dismaying lack of precision about too many of the reports. Popular American writer Brad Steiger alleges that hundreds of ufologists, contactees, and chance recipients of UFOs claim to have been visited by ominous strangers, usually 3 dressed in black, but he cites only a few anecdotal instances. Similarly, John Keel, an expert on unexplained phenomena, claims on a number of occasions, "I actually saw the phantom Cadillacs as advertised, complete with sinister-looking Oriental-like passengers in black suits." But for a trained reporter, he shows a curious reluctance to pursue these sightings or to give us chapter and verse in such important matter. Such loose assertions are valueless as evidence. All they do is contribute to the myth. And so we come back once again to the MIB myth and the possibility that there is nothing more to the phenomenon than the myth itself. Can we not write off the whole business as delusion, the creation of imaginative folk whose personnel, obsessions, fake on this particular shape because it reflects one or other of the prevalent cultural preoccupations of our time? At one extreme, we could find contactee Woodrow Derenberger insisting that the 2 men dressed entirely in black who tried to silence him were emissaries of the mafia. At the other, theorist David Tansley suggests that they are psychic entities, representatives of the dark forces seeking to prevent the spread of true knowledge. More matter-of-factly, Dominic Lucchese, one of Albert Bender's friends, held that they emanated from some unknown civilization, possibly underground in a remote area of Earth, the Amazon, the Gobi Desert, or the Himalayas, or somewhere else. But there is one feature that is common to virtually all MIB reports that any theory must account for, and that perhaps contains the key to the problem. This is the possession by the MIBs of information that they should not have been able to come by, information that was restricted. Sounds like it sounds like somebody's it's like somebody's able to listen to something in real time, like same as our clock moves, yeah, but the clock can keep going, but they can listen to something in real time, like hacking someone's brain. Because yeah, I'll come round later, and you open your door and he's coming up your steps. That's later, you see. That's later. Don't forget, remember, he said, I'm slowing down now. So I'm going to guess, because travelling at high speed can, when you stop, can make your brain very, very fast. So the longer you stay outside of your whatever you're flying in or coming in, then I suggest that that's going to slow you down, you see. I'm only guessing, I don't know. Information that was they should not be able to come by information that was restricted, not released to the press, known perhaps to a few investigators and officials, but not to the public, and sometimes not even to them. The one person who does possess that knowledge is the person visited. In other words, the MIBs and their victims share knowledge that perhaps nobody else possesses. Add this to the fact that in almost every case the MIBs appear to the witness when he or she is alone. In Dr. Hopkins' case, for example, the visitor took care to call when the wife and children were away from home, and established this fact by telephone beforehand. The implication has to be that some kind of paranormal link connects the MIBs and the person they visit. To this must be added other features of the phenomenon that are not easily reconciled with everyday reality. These notorious black cars, for instance, where are they when they are not visiting witnesses? Where are they garage serviced? Do they never get involved in breakdown or accidents? I'm not saying that. Can it be that they materialise from some other plane or of existence when they are needed? You could technically say that penny that he vanished off the plane, off from this plane of existence, paid for the fuel of that car in a roundabout way. I'm only guessing, I don't know. Where are their garage service? Do they never get involved in breakdowns or accidents? Can it be that they materialise from some other plane of existence when they are needed? These are only a few of the questions raised by the MIB phenomenon. What complicates the matter is that the MIB cases lie along a continuous spectrum ranging from the easily believable to the totally incredible. At one extreme, visits during which nothing really bizarre occurs, the only anomalous features being perhaps that the visitor makes a false identity claim or has unaccountable access to private information, but as the other extreme are cases in which the only explanation would seem to be that the witness has succumbed to paranoia. In The Truth About the Men in Black, UFO investigator Ramona Clark tells of an unnamed investigator who was confronted by 3 Men in Blacks on 3rd of July 1969. On the window of the car in which they were riding was a symbol connected with them. On their visitations, this symbol had a profound psychological impact upon this man. I have never encountered such absolute fear in a human being. That first meeting was followed by continual harassment. There were mysterious telephone calls. The man's house was searched. He began to hear voices and see strange shapes. Black Cadillacs roamed the street in front of him, or his home. He should have started to build a garage. Just take the piss a bit. I'd do stuff like that, me. Just to see what would happen. Yeah, say, I gift you this. I'm gonna lay this foundation stone for the garage and just put a brick on the floor. See what happens. They might vanish, but then again they might not. I'm taking Mickey now, you have to excuse me. Black Cadillacs roamed the street in front of his home and followed him everywhere he went. Once he and his family were almost forced into an accident by an oncoming Cadillac. Nightmares concerning MIBs plagued his sleep. It became impossible for him to rest, his work suffered, and he was scared of losing his job. Was it all in his mind? One is tempted to think so, but a friend confirmed that while they talked, there was a strange-looking man walking back and forth in front of the house. The man was tall, seemed about 55 years old, and was dressed entirely in black. And that's a story about Men in Black. So I'm going to stop it for now. So I hope you like that story. I'll probably put another one out later today. I don't know what it'll be about, but it'll probably be UFO related. I'll go for that one for a day or two. So please subscribe to my channel. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy that story. Thank you.